almost immediately, you're going to see to the right of you this blank boring wall I mentioned, this gray boring wall. It actually used to have a big, well, not a big, maybe a 40-inch monitor or something sitting right here that didn't play anything. It wasn't working, it's been broken, and it's just been sitting there. So I had that removed, and now I have this amazing piece of available real estate that we should make it look enticing and pretty. So around this corner, so if you were walking in the door, this is basically like where the door would be when you come in. And as I said, to your right would be this wall. This is a doorway that goes downstairs to level 0 to the automotive classroom, which Yari had mentioned taking classes there. If you were to go straight from the doorway, whoops, didn't need to do that, and go straight from the doorway, you would go past our division office for business and applied technology. So this is kind of a weird building because we have 3 divisions actually housed in this building. We have business and applied tech, has a division office and a number of programs. Upstairs, we also have programs in the STEM division and the ACH division, which is arts, communication, and hospitality, which graphic design is one of those in ACH. So it's kind of a mixture. Take a look at the next screen. One of the challenges to this wall is a few things are going to be moved. So I wanted to let you know what it will look like. Eventually, when the design is ready to go up on the wall, it will be clear. So this box here circled in red, that will stay there. That has to stay there. It has electronics that control different systems in the building. So unfortunately, that's the first thing people will see, but we're going to go right up against it, kind of where this white piece of paper is. I use this as kind of a visual aid for me when I was doing this diagram, because we're going to leave a kind of a open area at the bottom for like a border. If you notice at the top of the screen, there's a black border that runs all the way down to the right. We're going to leave a border at the bottom that's kind of open, and then another border of gray below that black to kind of frame it out. The blue circle is an outlet that's going to be moved. As far as we know, it's going to move down into that yellow circled area down below, and then down here. And then the orange circle is a temperature box that will be moved somewhere out in this area right here. The green circle is a Prox card reader. That's, you've probably seen people walking around with the badge that they swipe to get into an office. That's what that is. It has to stay there. So basically we have kind of between that green circle and the red circle is our working area. This is the approximate shape and size of this mural or graphic that we're working on. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, 248 inches wide, 84 inches high. Your instructor has all these details also included on a document that she'll share with you later, but it's also here in the PowerPoint for you. You'll notice here again, the borders at the top, kind of leaving the gray, just for continuity for the rest of the, as we proceed down the hallway. So that's the first installation that's pretty large in scale. We're going to go downstairs now to the second area, which is our level 0. You can take the stairs down. They're located right near there. In case any of you want to, come over to campus and check it out, at least you'll kind of know where it is. Or you can enter into this building at the lower level if you come in on our west side. So basically not that door that's right in front of the stoplight, but if you go all the way around the building and come in the back side, which the parking lot's back there, that'll take you in tech door 7, and that'll bring you into level 0, which is basically shown on this map, kind of coming in back over here. As you come in, that entryway looks a little bit different, but definitely more of like an industrial look to it, or basementy look to it. I took this picture right inside the doorway, so this is what people see as soon as they walk in. Kind of boring. So you can see here, I have my blue circle. This is indicating you're kind of standing here looking in, and this is what you would see. The area to the left of these gray doors is not really a usable space for this type of project. So we are pushing the project over in this area, which you'll see in just a moment. But we're working with gray cinder block walls that will have a drywall frame, basically, like it'll be drywalled and framed. And that's the material that the wall graphic would be affixed to. Around the corner from here, if you turn this corner here, that if you go back there, that is the automotive lab and classrooms. This is just a supply closet. And then if you came in this door and you turned right just behind this horticulture banner, that's where you'd find some of our labs for, it actually tells you right here, for manufacturing, construction management, and HVAC. Those are located down there. Excuse me. So I stepped over to a kind of more in front of the wall to take this picture. And this shows the approximate size and shape of what this graphic will look like here. The next slide will show you a little bit more of how this will work, but essentially the same graphic that was designed for the upstairs will be modified to fit in this space as well. So guests entering on the lower level and the top level, level 1, will see the same image, just different size. We have some obstacles here to work around as well. Obviously, there's always something we got to work around. We have this red phone and pole electrical, or I guess the wiring, that can be moved over a little bit. We'll probably move it out over here. We have a bumper for this door that opens up that cannot be moved or removed, so that remains. And then we also have below that, we have the electrical outlet that we have to work around. You'll notice to the right of the boxed area that I drew, we have some space. And you might be wondering, well, why are we not stretching it out further? The reason we have some space to the right, not having a graphic, is due to things like what you see in that picture there, where it says start your career now. That's actually a small display. Sometimes we have some much larger displays, banners, hydroponic equipment that sit right there. So we do need to allow some space I'd rather not cover up the graphic with those things. I hate to have them sitting in front of the graphics. So we want to make sure we allow some space for those to be sitting off to the right. On the bottom left, you'll see the size of the graphic for this area. It's going to be more square than the other one. So this is, I can't see my screen. This will give you the overview of the specifications, which again, your instructor has for you as well. But the two walls will be the same, just with the size variations. You see the top one there that says level 0. So that's the one we were just looking at versus the one at the bottom right, which is the full graphic and what it would look like. The last bullet you'll see there, it says graphic should be a visual representation. We don't want any text. So, no logos, no text. I'm referring to COD green, which any of you, if you have any literature from COD or any sweatshirt or anything like that, you know what that color is. We cannot use that. We cannot use our logo. We can't use Chappie or any representation of Chappie or chaparrals or anything like that. We have to stay away from all that. So it really should just be strictly a visual representation of those 10 programs.
Can I add one more thing here, Linda?
Yes. Yep.
And so one of the things I also want you to point out, what I want you to see on this illustration here, is that the level 0 graphic is 1/3 the width of the wall graphic on level 1. They're both the exact same height of 84 inches. So when we talk about a design that is, obviously we're going from a very long rectangle, which is, this is 1/3 of the size wall graphic. It'll be, when we're thinking about this, we're going to be designing modularly. So it's not like we're just taking a square out of level 1 graphic. We're going to be using elements that are reconfigured in a way that will work in a square. But when we're designing, we want to think about that 1/3 to to the full graphic, that this is 1/3 of the full size of the wall, so that we can kind of configure. And this is a common thing that a lot of us will have to do, is always take and consider very different orientations of the same artwork, and how does it work from a rectangle to a square. So that's one of the other challenges of this project.
So that's interesting. So
Okay.
I think what I hear you saying is that, because I think I use the adjective the same. So it really might not be exactly the same. Obviously, it can't be the same
Correct.
because it's square. So
It
they'll take
won't be the
perhaps
same. Yeah,
elements or representations and reformat them so they fit in that space.
exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Exactly.
That's great. I love it. Actually, that makes it even more fun because then it's not exactly the same. So I like
Right.
that.
They will not be exactly the same, but they will have the same elements. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I am advanced, and I only have my slideshow in front of me. So if there's anything visual I need to see, let me know because I can't see it right now. I don't know why I'm not advancing. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So the goal of the project, as I mentioned, is to showcase the 10 programs that are offered in this building. Create an image or something that represents those 10 programs. It could be representative of the industry, the program, the equipment, the people. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. So that would be your imagination and you're bringing it to life. It could just, however you want to do it. If you just want it to be like a physical representation of these are the tools that they would use in that program, or it could be more of a manifestation of how they would use those tools or those skills and how it would look in the real world. I don't know. I'm not a creative person. That's where I need your help. As far as like who's the audience, because I think that might be helpful to know, like who's going to see this. So I had mentioned earlier that we have a lot of students that come through here. So we do certainly have COD students that come through here, which, as you know, our students are all ages. So we also have the middle school and high school students that I'm pulling in here, their parents. I hold a lot of open house type events called spotlights, where they're coming in, they're going through the entire building, kind of an open house format. And then we have the more formal events where we have the educators coming in, counselor events, administrators, might be principals or curriculum directors, that type of person coming through to see, what's new at COD. What is it you all are doing that we haven't seen in a while? We also have corporate partners coming in. So these are people like advisory board members. So all of our programs in this building, they don't just create their syllabus and their content just based on what they want. They also have advisory members from the community, such as local businesses, local organizations that sit on their board and meet with them periodically throughout the year to give them information such as, hey, you know what, COD, your program doesn't have the best technology, or that software that you're teaching, we're not even using that anymore out here. So they're giving us that, they're helping keep us up to date and making sure we're investing in the right things. Project Higher Ed is a COD program or department that provides apprenticeships for some of these hands-on careers. They're growing, so it's actually pretty small right now. There's not a whole lot of those apprenticeships happening, but when they are, they've been really amazing. And they partner with these companies in the area that take on students that work for them full-time or almost full-time, and they get paid. They get benefits, like they'll get vacation. Some of them even get like health insurance and such. But in addition to that, the students or the apprentices are also taking classes at night in that discipline or that area to work towards their associate degree or certificate. And those companies that are employing those apprentices are paying for their tuition, they're paying for their books, they're paying for, their whatever their overalls or whatever their work, I forget what they call them, that they wear in automotive, they pay for all that stuff. So those companies are also coming in here to see what we have. They like to see what they're investing in. So we have community members. Sometimes we have community members that literally just show up over here and just like, hey, can we walk through the building? That always kind of surprises me, but sometimes they're just curious. They live nearby. Other times they're people that say, hey, you know what? I've got a lot of money coming off my taxes that's coming to this school. What is it y'all do here? So we have to kind of, we entertain a lot of people here of very disparate interests, shall we say. Government officials as well, same type of thing, coming to see what we're doing, how they can push it out to their constituents. So a lot of local governments will meet with their local chamber of commerce, and they will share information about what's happening at COD and encourage them to visit here as well. Local nonprofits from various organizations, and we just recently had a contingency of college presidents from various community colleges, not only in Illinois, but throughout the country. They had come in for a big conference in Chicago, and we hosted them where they came and toured a few buildings on campus. We were very fortunate that the TEC building was one of them. So kind of a wide range of people that are coming through here. So the 10 programs that are housed here are here on this slide. As I said, you're going to get a copy of this, a copy of this as a PDF. You'll be able to go to these web pages that will allow you to see, okay, what does architecture offer? What kind of certificates do they offer? What kind of associate degrees do they offer? Do they offer internships? And there'll be a couple of pictures. I wish our website had more pictures, but than they currently offer. But it'll give you an idea of more depth of what does that encompass. I think what we'll do from here is we'll continue on to the slides that talk about each of the programs individually. But just remember that this is a resource for you built into the slide deck. So architecture is located on our top floor, which in this building, it's floor 3. So if you remember, we have 4 floors, but it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And architecture is a program that we offer that is really like a pre-architecture program. We do have some certificates that can be earned, and they can go out and work with those certificates. But many, and probably most of our students are taking their pre-architecture courses so they can then transfer to a 4-year university and complete their architectural degree. You can see here, I was just walking in their hallway yesterday, took these pictures. This is a project that they just completed. You'll see at the top right, the design work, and to the bottom left, the elevations of what the product was produced on the right. So that was, at least I believe that was, it looked like it was the same students' work. And in that area, they have, probably like your program, they are divided into, the beginning students, the more advanced students, and they have a lab there that's open 24/7. I think it's almost 365 days a year. And oftentimes, if I'm in the building at 10 o'clock at night, if I'm walking around and doing something, there'll be students coming in and out to work in the lab. They each have their own desk or station. They have one of the prox cards that I had mentioned before that they can scan to get into the lab. They have their station that everything is left there for when if they leave their project midstream and they just leave everything out, when they come back in, it's just waiting for them to pick up where they left off. As far as anything else about the program, I would suggest that you take a look at the website for more details, and then you can always email me. My email is at the end. It's not one of the programs that I directly support, so I don't know a whole lot of detail about it, but I can get you more information if you need it. The second program, we're going in alphabetical order here. The second program is the automotive tech program, and one of your students had indicated taking classes there. This is a program that prepares our students for a variety of work. It could be working in just, a local automotive shop. It could be working for a dealership. It could be working for the manufacturer at the manufacturer level, or going out as a representative and doing training for others, like such as training them on the equipment, training them on the diagnostic tools or the software. Or it could be training them on, like, for example, like GM parts and GM technologies and that type of thing. one of the big things in automotive tech is they really focus on problem solving skills. So they're a big believer in, the industry is changing for sure, right? We have, gasoline engines kind of moving aside for the electric cars and even semi trucks that are going to be, electric. So they have to constantly be learning, keeping up with the technologies. And being able to problem solve. Sometimes that relies on going back to, if you're working on an old model car, they may have to go back to cars that were built long before they were built, before they were born, and try to figure out, okay, how did this old technology work? But then the next, hour, they might be working on a brand new car that has a completely different set of challenges. In the automotive area, as well as a lot of our areas, we used to call them, like service workers or mechanics. And now we refer to them as technicians because everything is rooted in technology. It's very much based on electronics and learning how to use those electronics for diagnostics and things like that. So on this screen here, we have a note, kind of your dashboard in the middle, just kind of just a, as much as they come up with different styles, there's all kinds of really cool styles. So just kind of that heart of the automobile. Bottom left is a lift. We have a variety of lifts. There's about 34 bays that they have in this lab for working on all sorts of cars. We have close to 70 vehicles that we own that are used to teach the students about the everything about it. So those are the 70 cars that they initially learn on, tearing them apart, opening up the hood, seeing what's in there, pulling parts out, figuring out how the electrical works, all of that. As they progress through the program, then they start working on your car, my car, that type of thing. So we can actually, we could bring our cars in and ask them if they can fix it, if they have time on their schedule. And when they bring the car in, it's actually just like a dealer would service your car. When you drive the car in, they take your name, do you have an appointment, what's wrong, let me check your mileage, etc. So they teach them how to work in that dealer environment, because that's oftentimes one of the first jobs that will be had. Many of them are doing that type of job while they're taking classes at COD and continuing with their studies. To the right, that is I think you told me that's like a brake rotor, a brake drum. I'm not the automotive person here. Yari, feel free to jump in if you know something I don't know here. And then there's a spring in the background. Again, this is kind of more of that old technology, but constantly hands-on, lots of diagnostics, trying to figure out what is the problem. And the program chair there, Joe Aranke, likes to talk about how when he used to teach in Kansas at a community college, and he would have the farmers and the agricultural companies contacting him to hire his students, not to work on cars, but they hired them because of the problem solving skills. So this kind of goes to that thinking of nowadays, we really have to prepare our students, not for the jobs of today, but really the jobs of the future. And some of those skills that are really important, one of them is problem solving, being able to look at what's going on, why could this be happening, and get into the bottom of it, figuring out a solution for it. Construction management is a program that is, it's part of architecture. So it is run as you notice, it says construction management. It doesn't just say construction. So we are not teaching people to work in construction as a laborer. We're teaching them how to manage a project, how to manage employees, how to manage sites, that type of thing. So they're typically coming to us with some exposure in the industry. If you've been in our building and you are on level 1, we have some overlook windows where you can look down into our labs. And this is one looking down into the construction management lab. You'll see in the front there, they have some framing that they've done. There's there's usually some state of building going on in this. Every time I go by, there's something different they're building. You can see the studs that they've put in and the framing. And then if you look further back in that picture, you'll see some rooftops, some trusses that have been put on, some little structures back here. And then in here as well. And then way in the back, oh, actually here it looks like they put some, what do they call that? The stuff that goes up before the roof goes on, the
Shingles or tar paper,
the
or
tar paper. Yeah, before the shingles go
Yeah.
on. So it looks like that's
Okay.
the tar paper. Thank you. And then
Sure.
to the back, we have these electrical, this is the electrical training area. So this is where they learn about residential wiring. And this lab is used by construction management. It's used by HVAC. It's sometimes used by electronics. It's used by manufacturing. A lot of those areas are also learning about the basics of electrical wiring, ensuring how to do it properly and safely. One of the things they also learn about is how to use and utilize a blueprint. So here's just a real simple blueprint. This looks like it's probably a residential facility of some side, house or something. So they learn, what do all these diagrams mean? What does this represent? They also learn about problem solving. Everything, I think everything in this building is focused around problem solving. Accuracy, of course, being very important in construction, learning about the the attention to like the OSHA regulations and all the building regulations and that as well. Upstairs on level 2. So if you come in that front door from, coming from your building, you would go to the next level to see the electronics. It takes up much of the floor. They have a lot of classrooms up there and training labs. There's kind of a mix between electronics and electromechanical. Both of those are housed up there and run by the same program chair. If you go to the link that I provided on the previous slide, a couple slides ago, you'll be able to see some of the kinds of classes that are in each of these areas. Again, it's one of those I don't support, so I'm a little bit less clear on exactly what they do, but they do a lot with wiring, circuitry. So for example, you see here in this picture, this wiring and circuitry for programmable logic controllers, PLC. So PLC equipment is where they program. I hate to use the word program because it's not like doing a software program, but they program using more like wiring and switches as opposed to software. But they program this PLC to control another piece of equipment, to make it an automated process. So for example, if you have some type of a pump that needs to be turned on at a certain time, or it needs to be turned off when water levels reach a certain limit, and you want it to be done automatically, these are the kinds of things that PLCs can do. Very, very, very common and needed in a lot of different industries and settings. They're used in manufacturing environments. They're used in building maintenance, building management. They're used in so many different areas. In addition to that, they learn about robots or robotic arms. This is one of the robotic arms. I think they have about 4 of them in that lab. And this is from FANUC, F-A-N-U-C. FANUC is probably one of the biggest in robotics. Everything that we have in this building is really state of the art in terms of being very current. Again, based on the input that we get from our advisory members, they tell us you need to replace that, and we're usually replacing it even before they tell us that, because we really try to stay at the leading edge. But these robotic arms are used in all kinds of industries. We see them frequently, of course, in manufacturing. Places like Amazon have them everywhere. Anytime you can automate a task, especially a repetitive task, such as reaching, pulling apart, putting it in a box, reaching again, or moving a part and putting it on a machine, having it be go through some type of a process and then removing it and putting it somewhere else. Rather than having someone do it, that's what those robotic arms do. So they learn about how to program them and solve for problems if something's not working properly. The electromechanical side is, again, it's kind of similar to electronics, but getting into a little bit more of the, it's kind of like if you wanted to be an engineer, but did not want all of the math, it's more of the hands-on component of it is the way I understand it. And a lot of what they're doing here, again, you'll see the wiring. They're usually working on connecting things in a building. You see the control panel there on the box on the wall. And then it shows you on the table what they would look like, what they'd be connecting to elsewhere in the building. So they're connecting to all kinds of parts that control whatever the equipment is. And they manage it from one central area. That is about it. When it comes to those two areas, I don't know a whole lot about them. So feel free to email your questions to me. But they also do work with like renewable energy sources. So that's a real big area today, of course, is, how do we be more efficient, more energy efficient? I had mentioned that we have the solar panels, we have the turbines, wind turbines on the roof, but also these renewable sources, the battery sources, that using water, the hydropower, using, oh gosh, what else do they have? I need to note here, bioenergy. So that would be like taking organic materials and burning them and using those fuels. Wind energy, of course, and solar energy, and there's even more different types. So they do teach some of that in the electromechanical area to learn, because that's a big thing for so many companies today, especially if they want to be LEED certified, indicating their energy efficiency for their building. So the HVAC lab, as I had mentioned early on, as far as we know, it is the largest facility in the state for training. This picture on the right was taken from our overlook window that looks down into the lab. It gives a pretty good representation of the lab, but there's still components of it that are not even visible in this picture. What you'll see here is kind of a mixture of what's in this lab. We have ductwork that's used or created by using sheet metal. So they have different types of equipment and tools that allow them to shape the sheet metal into whatever design or shape that they need. So in this particular instance, they needed to make piping, so that was made. Other times they might be making like a little hood for a piece of equipment, or they're making some kind of a conduit that wiring might be going through, that type of thing. So the technology has changed. My dad was a sheet metal worker and he did it all by hand. Nowadays they have much more efficient tools that can do that work for them. In addition to that huge pipe going around there, you'll see below it we have the air conditioning units down here, and there's actually a whole bunch of them. They're all back in here. And then we also have heating units. So heating and air, learning how to install them, how to fix them, how to maintain them. Over to the right, actually you can see more of them over here, the air conditioning units. But over to the right, these green pipes, that's what you see over here on the right part of the right picture. But these are different pipes. So they learn about, installing pipes, and there's some welding that they might learn about as maybe a class or two, like how those are pipe fitted together. They work with the boilers. So very, very large buildings, such as even like the college. The college would have boilers, hospital would have boilers, Sears Tower, Willis Tower, any of the ballparks, any of those big facilities are going to operate with boilers, and boilers do what it sounds like. They basically control the water temperature that's needed for, for heating especially. And they're very dangerous to work with in terms of a lot of times they have gases or steam that escape, and they can burn you severely, third-degree burns easily. So they learn how, depending on what study, their area of study. So all of these, you got to remember, it depends on which part of that program they're working on. There's different pathways, different certificates, different degrees that they can get. So these are just some of the ones that are offered. So they learn about working with those boilers and pipes. Back to this main picture, you have out in the back here, they have an area where they learn about pumps. So utilizing water pumps, they learn about those. The very back of this picture, it's kind of, I lost my mouse. So right back over here, this section, unfortunately we can't see it, but this is where all the electronics are located. So like in automotive, everything has really moved more to a technological way of approaching these, everything, installation, the fixes, the maintenance, it's all done electronically as opposed to just, grunt work with, taking a wrench and moving something. That still happens, but so much of it is really electronics. So they learn about that. One of the degrees that students go after is our building automation program. And those are the people that would get jobs in those big places I just named. So they would be somebody managing the facilities at COD or managing O'Hare. I mean, they make really good money. Really good money, but they're managing every problem that might come up, such as the doors that are automated to close if there's a risk of a fire, if there's like a fire alarm that goes off. If you've ever been in a building where you see doors that had been open all of a sudden close on their own, that is controlled
Linda,
by, yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure we make it through everything. I'm just watching the time, and I just want to make sure we have enough time to get through all the programs. So I'm going to
Oh
maybe
yeah,
encourage you
okay.
to move
Oh,
on,
okay,
just so we have enough time for question and
awesome.
answer, if that's
Okay, good.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. And then one more thing I want to show you on here. So we actually can't see it, but all the way out to the left, you can kind of see these little gray spots. Those are the huge walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers. So those are for the people learning how to manage the temperatures. Our buildings like, Jewel and Osco and anybody that's, an airline that has food, basically the better you can control the temperature for those institutions or restaurants, the better they're going to be able to keep their food longer, be able to sell it, be able to cook it and sell it to other people. Otherwise, they throw it away. So you become very valuable to them. We have our horticulture program, which some of you visited. This is our greenhouse. They learn about things like plant propagation, like how do we grow more plants from existing plants. They do things like hydroponics, where they actually grow the plants in water. This was right where the downstairs picture is going to go. And then they have the outdoor sustainable gardens, which a lot of restaurants in Chicago and elsewhere around the country are growing their own vegetables. They'll have their vegetables and their fruit being grown on property or nearby. They learn things like floral design, sustainable rooftops, which is what this is here. They learn about greenhouse management, sustainable agriculture, that type of thing. Interior design is just what it sounds like. How do we design our interiors to be beautiful? And here again, many of these students will go on to pursue additional degrees from here. But here on site, we have a lab where they have all kinds of cabinets to choose from, materials to choose from, all types of color wheels and all that in their design. They can actually go right to the lab and pull those out. Many of our students have won national awards. Actually, that's for a lot of our programs. Horticulture has come back with lots of national awards. Even as a community college, we have beat many four-year universities in our competitions. Manufacturing technology is where they make things. And sometimes they make things that make other things. So for example, they might find that a company has a piece of equipment that's really valuable. It's a little bit older. The company might be out of business that manufactured it or doesn't have a part, but they need that part in order to keep moving. So in manufacturing, one of the things they learn about is how to design it, how to ensure that it's exactly the right specifications that will fit with that. You know, if they're putting a part into a machine, will it fit in there properly and snug? If there's threading that has to go on, like screwing something in, will that be done properly? So that's one of the problem solving things that they do. They have 3D equipment that is quite expensive and massive, what they can produce. What we have here on the left side is a kids camp, Gadget Girls, where they're looking at a water laser that actually cut out the wings for the dragonfly. So you can see on the screen here, they designed it in software first. I think this was SolidWorks. And then from the SolidWorks, they put it onto this machine to use the water laser to cut the pieces. And then from the cut pieces, then they were able to assemble it and use, they went over to welding and they welded the pieces together to make these dragonflies. So this is one way that we're introducing manufacturing to young people. Over to the right is a machine that basically allows them to, here again, pre-program it utilizing special software, G-code, to tell it where to make the hole or where to make the cut or whatever it might be. So it's predominantly all automated. Manufacturing shared a couple of videos. These are really awesome. There's a really cool way to see the cool types of machine tools and what they can do with them. I highly recommend that you watch at least one of them or two of them, or even if it's just parts of them, because it'll give you a real good idea of what manufacturing looks like today and the very amazing things that they can do with our degrees. There's, as you may know, here in Illinois, manufacturing is coming back. We have a lot of manufacturers coming back to the area or building new factories, but they don't have enough people. So we're trying to get more of them ready. So the last program we're going to talk about is welding. So welding technology is what we call sewing with fire. So you're basically figuring out, how do I take two pieces of metal? How do I stick them together? One way would be to put maybe a bolt in them or something like that, but that might not work for the application that you're looking for. So how do we make the metal stick together? You see here with this, it's kind of like a paperweight that they made with a class. They first took the two pieces of metal and made the stand and welded those together. And then they had them weld using the welding stick, whatever. There's different kinds of welding they could do. They basically drew their initials. They had to like weld it. It's tough when you first start is to making it really accurate and making it look pretty. Sometimes it comes out real clumpy. There are people that are really talented at doing, and they can make very beautiful, fine welding leave behinds, and those are great for people that are working on things like satellites and where you don't want a lot of extra weight pulling it down with poor welds. You want them to be really strong, but make them very as thin as they can be, so you're not adding weight to a satellite, for example. On the bottom left, you'll see a bunch of students taking a look at our coupons in those baskets, or these big pieces of metal that kind of look like what you see in this top picture. And that's what they use for all their practice exercises in the labs. We have 32 bays in the lab, so every student has their own little like office that they work in, because when you're welding, it's all closed in. When I took the picture on the right, you'll see everybody there has one of the welding hoods on covering their face. I actually took this with my hand reaching in from outside so that I could get a unobstructed view. So that is the overall of the various programs. I think one of the challenges of this project is because there are so many programs, it's like, how do I learn enough about each of them? And it really is just kind of what inspires you about each of them, like what you kind of envision that program looks like, or what would entice people to go, oh, that looks like a cool thing. How would I learn more about that area? And then here's my email as well. So open it up for questions. I see there's something in the chat.
Yes, Amber has a question in the chat. You can see that though, I think, right?
Yes. What photos of being? Oh, interesting. Okay. So let me ask you, Amy, do we want to share?
Um,
I'm kind of mixed because it's like on one hand, I can show you something, but then I don't want that to sway you and feel like that's what you need to do.
right. I think the question, Amber, I think it's a good question. So let me
It
start
is a
there.
good,
I
it
think
is a
it's a
good
good
question. Yeah.
question to say, are there photos or murals that are similar to what you're looking for? I can say from my conversations with Linda that she was inspired by a mural that another graphic design course did. And I can show you guys that it's on Behance. I can show you which one it is, but
I
I
have it.
don't,
Do you want me to show you?
you can show it. Yeah, you can show
Okay.
the one that you saw that got you
Right.
inspired for this. But I don't want you to think this is what she's looking for you to do. And so that's what I think
Exactly.
Linda's getting at,
Right.
right?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, I
She
know what you mean.
liked the idea of a very graphic mural to highlight all of these wonderful things that the building is doing. But because this is a very specific style, she's not saying, I want you to do this. So that's why
Exactly.
I think she's hesitant to show it, because she doesn't want you to do it
Right.
like
I don't want you to
this.
feel like, oh, I have to do that. So but it was
Right.
what inspired me to think, I love that this is very different than, no, I can't find the picture here. Very different than what I normally see on campus, put it that way.
Right. I'm going to encourage you while Linda's looking for that, for everyone else to go ahead and put your questions in the chat. So, yeah.
Can you see that now?
Yep, I can see your screen.
Okay.
Yep.
So this was my understanding of the background on this is the Center for Student Success, which is located in the BIC building, Berg Instructional Center. They had wanted a wall graphic that had a compass on it. So that was how the project started. And then from there, the class encouraged them that, let's do more than a compass and include some other graphics. So this is what kind of inspired it. And I
Good.
liked,
Good
I guess,
question.
kind of the thing I liked about it, and here again, it doesn't have to be this way. I thought it was really cool that you had like different representations in each box. Here again, it doesn't have to be in a box. I mean, however you want to lay it out, but I thought that was kind of cool that it had different images. I don't know that their program was as easy to represent as ours would be, because ours are very specific, like here's the 10 programs. Theirs was more of we help students. So I think I don't know, it's kind of real different. Overall aesthetic, ooh. So yeah, that's a good question, Dana. And here again, I hesitate to say because this is something that various people in the building would look at. So it's not just me. And I'm sure that different styles will appeal to different people.
I would agree with that. I think an aesthetic isn't something that we want to focus on, because the reality is we want to see your creativity.
Exactly.
And
yeah.
Linda is a part of a larger committee. She's our point person. Linda's our point person, and she's going to be interacting with our class, but she has to share what we're doing with a much broader group of people that are going, this is a choice by committee. This isn't one person saying, that's
Exactly.
it, I want to go with that. It's never going to be that. It's going to be a voting and
right.
a majority rules. And it's, you know what I mean? And not everyone's going to be happy with, because they didn't get their way, because that's just,
exactly.
we're a committee based organization.
And that's why I'm hesitant to say, here's what I recommend. Now, Kia, I see the question. I think I really do want to see all 10 programs represented. Yes.
Yes.
Not just a
all
few,
10
because
programs.
will be one of those programs that's omitted will be, why are we not in there? So they all would have to be in there. Yes. Good question.
And they all have to be in there in a fairly equal way, because you can't say, we're going to focus on horticulture because we like doing plants, and then, do nothing for welding. I mean, it has to be, remember, think of yourself. If you're one of the leaders of these programs, think again of we have to represent all programs equally, so that everyone feels it's fair and inclusive. And so when you have an organization with 10 programs, all 10 programs have to be represented in an equal and fair way. And so those are things that are going to matter to the people in the building. So good
But
question,
I
but
guess I hesitate a
yeah.
tiny bit because I almost like if I say this is going to be wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that all 10 have to be all equally spaced out in 10 boxes of equal
Oh,
size.
no, no.
But don't may have one that's huge and then the one that's super tiny and then a bunch of that are medium, because that super tiny one, I'm sure I'm going to hear from them going, why did you make mine super tiny? So
That's
if
right.
you can
That's
make
my
one a
point.
little larger and smaller, but make sure that look at the smallest one and think, okay, if that was my program, would I be offended? That's probably a good way to approach it. Specific
Okay,
color palette, no. The only thing is please stay away from that COD green.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody asked about, is there a color palette? No.
I did see a question earlier that I don't want to miss. It was up by Amber. She had how do people visit the building, feel, respond to the space
Oh,
based on your observations?
I
I
missed
thought that
that.
was a really
Okay.
good question. I know you shared with us the audience, and I love that you have that's that slide that says these are all the people that are coming to visit our building, and so you're speaking to a really broad audience. So I
It
think
is.
it's probably going to be hard to nail that down because you have such a broad audience coming, but they all want to understand what the building offers, which is
Right.
so large and diverse.
It's very diverse. Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't see that question earlier. I was reading the
That's
beginning
okay.
part of it, Amber. So apologize, Amber. So I'll tell you how people respond when they come to our building, just in general. Pretty much everybody that comes to our building is in awe because we have amazing labs. We have very engaged faculty and program chairs. They're very, very passionate about what they do, as I'm sure you find in your area as well. Um, it's more than just teaching a class. They really, really are passionate about getting people into their area of expertise in their career. When we have people visit us, they see that. It's very evident. They also they comment on our labs. They comment on how, gosh, you have like, especially people from the industry. They're like, oh my gosh, you have the latest and greatest here. We hear that all the time. Um, People from industry, people from government, they have a little bit different comment than a student would. Somebody who's like a local government official. They're looking at how does COD help their people, right? How does it help their constituents? So they like it because they see, oh my gosh, you have amazing resources here. Kind of like I say, you have amazing labs. I can see what you're doing here is fantastic. Um, I've never heard anybody walk in though and go, wow, this is really cool when they first walk in. So that's what I'm trying to evoke is when they first walk in to kind of go, oh, that looks really cool. What is that? Are those other programs that you have here? And one thing, like when they first walk in to feel a little bit welcomed and inspired by what they're going to see when they come in the building. Right now, it's just blah.
Right, because it's a really rich program offering, which you all just heard about. I mean, I think the thing that really stuck with me in your presentation, Linda, is that you started off by saying this is a hands-on building.
The
And
entire
so I
building is.
think,
Yep.
yeah, entire building is hands-on, and it's really about making things, I would say.
And
Just
actually,
about,
if you think about it, I think making things or fixing things or creating things is the entire building. I'm just trying to think of every program here,
good
every
way to
one of
think
them.
about it.
Yeah,
Making
we
things,
make, we
creating
fix,
things, fixing
it's the whole
things.
building is. And I don't know, I guess maybe your building might be able to say the same thing, but it's even more hands-on than
Well,
yours.
we're more I mean, our building has more entertainment elements and things like that.
Mhm.
A lot of more visual arts,
But
entertaining,
it's
where yours is
design,
more
it's
practical.
creativity. Right. Very, very much so. Yeah, it's very, excuse me, very hands-on. Yeah, I was kind of interested. I know, and cut me off if we need to go. I was kind of curious from all of you that, maybe in chat or something, were there any programs that you were like, oh, I didn't even know that existed? Didn't even ever heard of that before? Did anybody get
Yeah,
enlightened today by something I shared with you? Like, I didn't know that was a career.
yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, just throw it in the chat. How many of you, this is news, did you know all
Right.
of these things existed
Yeah.
on our campus? Or
Or
Did
like,
you
I
know
never
that was
even,
an option?
yeah, like I've heard people say to me, like, what is horticulture? I don't know what horticulture is. I'm like, oh, it's a study of soil and plants and our environment. Didn't know we had a new interior design course. Yeah. Managing construction. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of times people will call us and say, can I take a construction class? And it's like, well, we don't teach construction, but we teach the management of it. Yeah, HVACR. Yeah, the R is kind of new too, because I had never heard of, I'd heard of HVAC for years, of course, because my dad was a sheet metal worker, so he worked in that industry. He worked in commercial buildings where they were installing the duct work. So when you're in a house that's being built and you see all the duct work, what carries the air, the cool air and the hot air throughout your building. That's what he used to build. So, but the R is kind of new. That's the refrigeration aspect of it. And I'll bet you now when
Yeah,
you're driving down the street, you're going to see, I guarantee you're going to see at least 2 trucks today that say HVAC on the side of them.
yeah,
Because now that you're looking
yeah.
for it, you'd be like,
Especially during
oh,
the summer, we're all hoping those HVACs are working.
yeah. And I'm telling you, some of the people that I always say some because I can't say all, because with everything we have our high earners and our lower earners, right? In every company, every industry, we have a lot of people making really, really, really good money in HVAC, really good money. And welding. Oh my gosh.
Welders,
People
I've
rivet,
heard that. I'm in Wisconsin, and I've heard that here majorly that there is such a shortage for welders. So, any of you know
yep.
folks that are interested in that career, that is demand, high,
And
high demand.
especially if they're open to moving, because there's a lot of jobs like down in Texas that they're easily starting off at like $80,000. It's crazy. And then as they move up, they're making over 6 figures. Um, yeah, I think almost all of the programs in our building, especially those real hands-on, more trade type of programs, they are all in huge demand. And the reason is all of the old people are retiring. All of the old
Mhm.
people are retiring. So those people that are coming out to your house or coming to your buildings to fix things, look at them. They're old. Okay. They're not going to keep
Yeah,
doing this forever. And a lot of them are afraid to retire because they know what's going to happen when they retire. When your parents call and say, hey, I need, our air conditioning's out, and they're like, yeah, we can't get to you for 4 days. You're like, what do you mean you can't get here for 4 days? They don't have enough people. So,
yeah,
and the more people that retire, you're going to be waiting longer for all these services. So we're trying really hard to kind of feed that pipeline of getting people out to work. And I love it because I see so many women in our classes too. We
that's
have,
awesome.
I think we have a 12% of our welding students are women, which is, I think, 7 points above like the average nationally.
That's awesome.
HVAC has a few women. They don't have a ton of them, but they have a few. I had one woman came out to our house. She didn't go to COD, but she came to our door to do fix our air or something. And she was downstairs, and my husband comes down and he goes, "Did I just hear a lady?" I was like, "Yes. What do you mean?" He goes, "Oh, I'm just surprised. I'm just surprised." And I said, so I was talking to she was a real young lady, and she's a mom, and her company was so flexible. Here again, they need people. They let her put her kids on the bus in the morning and then come to work. They're basically like, we'll make it work. We need you, we'll make it work. So she puts her
That's
kids on the
awesome.
bus, she comes to work, she goes home, she picks them up, she drops them off wherever she goes to her next appointment. So I mean, we're seeing a lot of that happening because of the need.
That's great.
Yeah.
As it should be. As it should
Yeah,
be.
I love it. I love it. I was in welding yesterday, and I walked over to them, and there's 4 women sitting having their break together. And I was just like,
Awesome.
this is so cool.
Yeah.
Not to disparage the guys, but guys, you know what I'm talking about, right? We think of these careers typically as the guys are doing it, right? And I love it when I
Yeah.
see the women in there doing it as well. So, and we need them because we're not going to have enough people picking up on those careers. So we need to keep feeding the pipeline. And the pay is really good. Of course, it always depends on you. You have your hard workers, you have your harder workers, and then you have your hardest workers. And then you also have in terms of talent. So, and then it also varies by where you are, what state, what area of the state. It depends on the company. And so wages can really be all over the place. So I'm always kind of careful to quote numbers. Um, but there are
Okay.
definitely people making six figures in all of these areas, which is pretty cool.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Any other
yeah.
questions regarding the mural as we have
Okay, so
a couple more
Yari,
minutes?
who is Otto Mergenthaler? What did he build?
He built the first like linotype, so like for the
The
printing
f-
press.
okay, I have to look that up.
So like
Okay.
his story, it like people were really like rooting for his downfall, so they weren't like manufacturing parts for him. So he like built
Oh,
machines to build the parts he needed.
oh, I love that. Okay, I have to look that up. Well, did you see that on one of those like Made in America programs or something?
No, I actually learned it in like Professor Decker's class last semester.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'm looking through all these things. That is so cool. I have to look at that.
Yeah.
All right. I think I got all the questions taken care of. Right. Well, awesome. I did include my email when you get the deck from your instructor. Feel free to email me. I may not respond immediately, but I will respond to you as best as I can. Thank you for taking this
Perfect.
on. I'm super excited to see what you come up with.
Well, thank you so much, Lynn, for bringing this project to us. I think we're all very excited about the opportunity to have a real world project in class. So thank you very much
I
for
know it's got to be
entrusting us
better
to
than like
that.
a fake one, right? You know, because
Yes, it
now
is. It is.
but it's more pressure because now you know you have a real audience looking at it. So
We
anyway, have
do. We
fun
do.
with it.
And I think, yeah,
I was just gonna say, go with your thinking. Like, don't worry about what I'm thinking. Like, just as long as you're within the parameters that we're both saying, you do you, and let's see what you come up with.
that's right. That's the beauty of this is we really are looking for you to take, all the skills you've learned this semester in all of the software we've been working on and the different techniques and bringing your own flavor to it. The idea that it's really about visual communication. There's no words. It's just about how do we represent all of these programs and this idea, making, creating, fixing, hands-on visually to get people excited when they go in this building, because it's really about this wide audience of people coming. This building has a lot of cool stuff, so many cool things. But when you walk right in, it doesn't look very cool.
It
It's
looks
just a
really
big gray
blah.
wall. It's very blah. And we want to bring that excitement, that fun, that inspiration, that wonder. I think you said, what do people respond to the building? Awe. We want to have them have that awe moment right when they get in the door, and then be like, I can't wait to see this, and this,
Exactly.
that we're showing them on the wall.
You know,
So
and
we want
oddly,
to bring
some of
that.
the people actually never get to see anything because sometimes they're coming in and they're going right in that tech door one, the one that's the first one when you come over from Mac, and they're turning right and they're turning right again because there's a huge big classroom there that they use for all kinds of functions. So a lot of people come to this building and they go right into that room 1038, and then they might walk to the bathroom and they come back and they leave. And so they never actually get to see the building. And so here again, this is a nice way for them to go, gosh, I guess they do this in this building. Wow, I didn't know that. I'm going to go home and tell my son. I'm going to go home and tell my neighbor, and maybe I should take a class here.
Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Linda. Appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation. It was really wonderful. I really appreciate that
Oh, you're
the
very
time you've
welcome.
given us. And we are excited to get started on it. So thank you again. And everybody, I want to say a quick bye to Linda, and then we'll wrap up class. Thanks, Linda.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate your attention and your time. Bye.
Great. We'll be talking. Thanks, Linda. Oh, good. Good. All right, everybody. So that is the intro to Project 4. I have a project brief that I'm going to put up, and I have it on Blackboard. I just want to wrap up with saying the first steps, like talk about what we're going to do for next week. So we are, this project, we're going to come back with some sketching and start thinking about like, how are we going to wrap our minds around this project? You have a lot of research to do. The slide deck that Linda just went over will be up on Blackboard. The project brief will be up on Blackboard. I encourage you to watch the videos, click on the links, learn as much as you can about this building, start creating a mood board about things that are inspiring you about the 10 programs, and then start doing your sketching. I want to see a minimum of I want to say a minimum of 3 sketches that are kind of thinking through all of these things. You can also be looking at sketching different ideas for the different programs separately. You can start kind of thinking about like how you might organize your thoughts of how do you want to communicate the story we're going to tell about the TEC building, because ultimately a mural is telling a story. And so, you know, we have a lot to think about. We have a lot of symbolism we need to look at, iconography, and the idea of really how do we tell the story without words and make it feel exciting and awe-inspiring, okay? And we'll talk more about it for sure on Tuesday. And then the next thing that's due on Tuesday is, of course, our final Utopia. We are finalizing Utopia, our isometric drawings. Really great progress this week. We had a short week, so you've had a lot to do in 2 days. We're all in different places. Share widely on Slack, putting your work up on Mural, telling people go look at my mural, or pop something up on Slack so people can give you feedback. Between today and Tuesday, there's a lot of time for you to kind of make those final revisions and refinements. Make sure, the one thing I'm still seeing confusion over is lighting. Making sure we're thinking about what's the lighting source, how are we lighting our designs, like how are we making sure we're being consistent in the lighting. So real important to keep that in mind as you're working. Reach out for feedback as you need it. That's the beauty of our Slack, using Slack and saying, hey, I need some help, I need some feedback. Please use it. All right, and any questions for me before we wrap up? We have a couple minutes left.
So we'll start looking. So we should start looking into assignment 4, and we can
Yes,
watch the
we're gonna
recording while we also make revisions this weekend to project 3.
Yep, we're going to be finishing project 3 and starting project 4.
Absolutely.
And so we have to have sketches coming in with sketches on Tuesday for project 4. Okay, this is it. We have 2 weeks left after today. And so we're taking everything we've learned. There's no new tools I'm teaching you now. You know it all. So now you're just moving in to utilizing all of these new tools, all of these new techniques you've learned, and putting them into action for this final project. All right.
Okay.
All right, everybody.
I'll do my best.
So for the mural, is it going to
Yes.
be for example, each student can choose one of the programs, and what we can do is like put them together, because we're doing isometric utopia kind of thing. So I mean, it's just an idea, like we can do that for all the programs together, like show each program at one point and then put that as a the whole thing. I mean, like, it's just like a small
Oh,
idea.
you're saying, what you're saying is
Yeah.
each student takes one program.
Yeah, or the
problem with
program they
that-
like.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem with that is stylizing, because everyone has a different style they might approach it in. And so to make it all feel consistent and congruent, that might
Yeah.
be real challenging.
Okay. Yeah, that it can be.
But I get
Sure.
I get what you're saying. Let's all take a stab at it. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can come up with. There's a lot of, again, I'm not teaching new, there's not going to be any tutorials this time around. I'm not teaching any new elements of the software. At this point, you know what you know. So you'll have a lot more time to really develop these ideas. We won't be working so much on learning the software, because the idea now is that you know the software much stronger than you did when you came in. And so that you're able to work more efficiently and utilize all those things that you've learned this semester, working with monoline, shapes, geometrics, grids. Grids are going to be a huge help on a mural. Grids are always used on a mural. So definitely thinking about how to organize your design using grids. So definitely pull out your grids as you're developing your sketches, bringing it right into that beginning sketches of how you're organizing.
So what the part I don't understand is that what is each student going to contribute to the whole mural? Like, is it
No,
going?
each student is designing the entire mural. They're going to choose
Oh.
one mural. We're giving them 20 options.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. That's what
Does
I
that
was
make sense? Oh,
confused.
okay, I see.
I was
I see
confused.
what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
No, each of you is designing the entire mural
Okay.
because we're going to give them lots of options to choose from. So everyone's designing an entire mural. Yep.
Once a mural is chosen, are they gonna have feedback and like after the class ends, you know? Like
Right. So what happens is once a mural is chosen, there may be some edits and changes, but given it'll be something that when we go into the fall semester, we might need to call back and say, we need this edited or changed, something like that. So once a mural is chosen, a direction is chosen, you'll work directly with me and the committee, because remember, it's not just Linda, it's a whole committee. And there might be an issue of, I don't know, a color or, you know, some element that might need to be altered. So there might be edits, there might be changes. That
Alright.
is a possibility.
Alright.
I can do this. Bye, Amy.
Bye, Max. Thanks.
See
Bye.
you next week.
But that's a good question. That's a good question. So yes, we'll be in communication with whoever ultimately gets chosen. There will be working with us to kind of put it into production. All right. Well done, everybody. And I am excited to see where we go with this. I hope you guys are excited. Are you excited? Okay, good. All right. So have a great week. Busy week, get a lot done. And we're in the final 2 weeks. Here we go. Take care, everybody. Have an awesome week.
Thank you.
Thanks.